Mohammed El-Jar, fellow at the Atlantic Council. Lots of players, a confusing story. So perhaps let's try to break this down and first of all talk about something that everyone's interested in Libya, which is the oil and the oil money. So who's in control of what right now?
Well, previously the oil terminals have been under the control of a federalist militia led by Ibrahim Jadran until 2 days ago, when the Libyan National Army led by General Khalifa Haftar managed to swiftly push him out in an operation where it involved asking members to surrender their weapons and also to peacefully return to their homes with the support of key tribal figures.
When you say swiftly, we're getting word that not a shot was fired. What does that tell you?
It tells us that the Libyan National Army has managed to actually consolidate its position with the tribes, with the families, and also with the members of this militia, and they convinced them that there is no point in fighting them and that they are the force that has the right to secure and protect the Libyan, the main oil terminals after 2 years of being closed. So what this tells us is that the internationally recognized government in Tripoli and also the militias that are loyal to it in the oil terminals actually are not accepted on the ground as legitimate. They are not recognized by the people, by the families, by the members of the very militias that previously pledged allegiance. And this is why we have not seen much fighting, and we have seen a very swift action, and within less than 24 hours the Libyan National Army was in control of 3 oil terminals and also in control of the city of Ijdabiya completely. And now the forces that are nominally loyal to this deeply divided, internationally recognized government in Tripoli have been pushed out into Al Agheila area and also further towards Harawa near Sirte.
Okay, so there are 2 parties, those that recognize, those that don't. The government of national unity that was brokered there by the United Nations. Mohammed El-Jar, there's a 3rd party, which is the tribes that control where the actual oil wells are. How are they reacting?
Well, the tribes have decided to side with the Libyan National Army and with the House of Representatives in Tobruk, and they have actually told the members of the tribes who were part of the militia that controlled the oil terminals to lay down their weapons, to return home, and that their safety would be guaranteed and that they should surrender and hand over their weapons to the Libyan National Army. So the position of the tribes is actually in support of General Khalifa Haftar and of the Libyan National Army that has recently taken control. And actually the tribes in eastern Libya have just issued a statement that I received a copy of, and it actually condemned the statement that was issued by the 6 countries, including the US, France, and the UK, Italy, and Germany, saying that this was an interference in a Libyan affair and that the Libyan National Army was the force that is supposed to be protecting Libya's oil and Libya's oil infrastructure.
Mohammed, you mentioned that statement which condemns this tour de force by General Haftar. Back in the start of the month, the French foreign minister told the annual conference of French ambassadors that to eradicate ISIS in Libya, there'll definitely need to be a compromise between that Tobruk government you describe and General Haftar. Do you think Haftar believes he's gotten the implicit green light from the likes of France?
I am not sure that he waits for any green lights. He's actually, Haftar's game has always been to make sure that he wins the recognition on the ground. He wins the trust of the people, the trust of the tribes, and not so much worried so much about what the international community actually says. So, I mean, here, Haftar understand that what matters to the international community is fighting terrorism, securing Libya's oil infrastructure, and making sure that we restore some stability in Libya. And that is the card that General Khalifa Haftar is trying to play and to portray himself to the international community, but also most importantly to Libyans and to Libyan tribes, that he is the person who can bring some sort of stability and progress, if you like, in Libya.
Of course, the jury is still very much out when you speak to Libyans when it comes to General Haftar. He rose through the ranks of office as an officer with Muammar Gaddafi. Then he was against him, backed by the CIA, spent time in Washington. Today he's got backing from Egypt and the Emirates. Libyans divided.
Absolutely. Libya is a very divided country, deeply divided country. And when the issue of General Khalifa Haftar, he is a hero. He is much loved, supported in eastern Libya and other parts of the country. But when it comes to the city of Misrata, for example, and the leaders of the city of Misrata, they are not accepting of Haftar. They are not willing to compromise on Haftar. They are not willing to put any armed units in Misrata under the authority of General Haftar. And that is an extremely difficult position for Libya to be in. Egypt at the moment, I think, is trying to bring Misrata and Haftar and eastern Libya all together, because these are the real actual players on the ground who control territory, who have the military power, and who have legitimacy in the eyes of their own people. And I think the international community needs to do a lot more work in bringing those two key elements together, because this is the threshold.
You
this is
say
the
needs
minimum
needs to do a lot more work, but we sort of got those noises from the French, and we saw with the killing of these 3 French counterintelligence operatives that it seems as though they were working on the ground with General Haftar's forces. Off the record, is the West already working with Haftar?
I think there are already Western military intelligence personnel working with Haftar and with Misrata and other players in Libya. What's important for the international community is to bring the political and the military efforts that they have in Libya in line with each other. They should not be contradicting what they do politically with what they do militarily on the ground. And I think that has been the problem with the international community's efforts in Libya. Their efforts on the military level and on the political level are not in harmony, and sometimes they contradict each other and they go against each other. And that is what I mean by the international community needing to do a lot more work. And if they have any military coordination with key players on the ground, they need to use that leverage or that friendship or that cooperation in order to influence these key players towards supporting a real agreement, a real government, not a government that currently sits in Tripoli and does not control even its own offices at the moment. A deeply divided government in Tripoli, that government will not be able to hold and will not be able to exert any form of control on the ground.
Just very briefly on that, Mohammed, is the choice now with the rise of Khalifa Haftar between a country that's splintered and the return of another strongman?
No, I believe there is a chance to actually bring key Libyan players who have different views possibly on how things should be managed closer together. And I don't believe in the idea of this or that, this black and white kind of choice. I think Libya needs to bring stability first to the country, and then hopefully be able to establish institutions, rule of law, etc. But at the moment, the ordinary Libyans on the ground, all they can think about is security, being able to go back to work, being able to have cash out of the banks, to have the oil pumping again. And all of this requires stability. And in order to have stability in Libya, you need to have the key players who control the territory on the ground, who have the legitimacy and the recognition of the people on the ground, and not just some deeply divided government that is installed in Tripoli and has the support of the international community, but nothing else on the ground.
Mohammed El-Jar of the Atlantic Council, many thanks for joining us from Tunis.